Hi, it's Bobby from Fifth Avenue Cakes, and I thought it might be fun to share with you this awesome tutorial on a 4th of July cake, since 4th of July is about 2 weeks away. And I just added a little touch of fashion by frilling some red and blue dresses, and we've got stars, and then we have some pinwheels that I did. Everything is edible. The pinwheels are made from gum paste. The dresses are fondant. The cake is covered in fondant. And then we just have a nice little shell border tying everything together. So let's begin. Okay, so you're going to start with a square cake that you've covered. And while it's still wet and moist, and this one isn't, but let's pretend it is, you're going to take your cookie cutter and make the impression of your dress, and you're going to take it all the way around. And the best way that I found to make sure that both sides are the same and that you have even spacing is you're going to take out your ruler, and I like to work in centimeters just because I find it a little bit easier, and you're going to measure up to the 8 and make a mark, and you're going to measure in to the 1 and make a mark there. Do the exact same thing, and I'm trying to not get my hand in the way as I do this. And then you'll do the exact same thing on the other side. When you have done that all the way around on all 4 sides, you will go in and you will find your mark for the 1 and your mark for the 8 and place your cookie cutter, holding down the top with a fondant smoother. Since this is already dry, I don't need to do that, but that's what you would want to do. You don't want to touch the sides because you don't want to dent them, and once you have your impression, you don't want to get rid of it by accident. So that's the first thing you're going to do. You can work on the cake while it is still wet, or you can wait a couple hours and work on it once it's a little bit drier. I liked waiting till mine was a little bit drier, but either way will be fine. I'm going to show you, since both dresses were done the same, I'm going to show you the red because I feel that that one's going to show up better in the camera. So what you want to do is cut out, roll your fondant out to a 3 thickness on a pasta machine, or about 1/16 of an inch. And at the moment I just have enough for 2, so we'll work with that. And we also don't want our fondant to dry out, so I'm going to put this back in to its bag. And smooth down my sides. Oops. Take this one off. And this fondant is pretty wet, but I'm still going to put it up to the side right now. Alright, so the next thing you want to do, oops, I got ahead of myself, is take a ribbon cutter, and with the smallest spacer inside, so you're going to set it up, and I don't know if you've seen these before, so I'm going to show you real quick. So usually it'll come with all the different wheels on there. So you're going to take the largest spacer and put it down. Put your plain wheel on. They come with a variety of different wheels. Put it on. Close it. Now you want to close it tight enough that it's not wobbling around, but not so tight that it won't wheel. So you want to make sure that the wheels work. Alright. Then what you're going to need to do is you're going to start at the bottom and you're going to cut little strips. And depending on what kind of fondant you're using, you might want to put it under a Stay Fresh mat. I'm working with a fondant that stays pretty moist, so I'm not going to do that because it actually stays so moist that I needed to let it dry out a little bit so that I could get it onto the cake, and you'll see in a minute. And then I'm not going to need this bottom again, but I need the middle. So you have 3 nice pieces, and that's what you're going to start with. And then what you need is a cup of water, a nice soft brush, a cell pin, or you can use a holly pin. This one worked fine, so I'm going to use this. Now you're going to frill out, and I'm sure you've seen me do this before, but you're going to frill out your pieces. And you're just rocking back and forth. Now on this particular project, you don't have to worry about the point making a mark in your fondant because it's going to be covered. And in fact, it's almost helpful for a guide. So you don't have to worry about the fact that your fondant's getting a little marked up. And you can fill it as much as you want, or if you don't want a whole bunch of frills, you could actually use the other side of the pin. Now you're going to end up a little bit longer than you need, and I found it easier after working several different ways with this, just to put this straight back, take the cookie cutter, and gently cut off the sides. Now you want enough of a lip that you can tuck it, and I'll show you what I mean in a second, so that it looks like it's kind of growing out of the dress. So you're going to bring your cake back in. You're going to wet your dress. And I made my marks for this particular cake. I indented quite heavy so that you could see it. You don't need to indent that heavy. I wouldn't go any heavier than this line here, but I wanted to make sure that everybody could see what I was doing. So then you're going to come in and bring this out like this and go from one edge to the other edge. And what now you see is that it just looks flat. So the first thing you're going to do is come in with a brush and turn it. And just anything round you can get under there so that it looks like the dress is literally into the fondant, so you don't have any edges. I'm going to try and get that a little bit rounder. And as you can see, this fondant's quite wet. The blue was done with a different fondant. I really love this red, and so decided to go ahead and work with it. Both fondants have their pluses and minuses. With the blue one, you have to work quite a bit faster, and you do have to keep it under a Stay Fresh mat. Alright, so then you're going to take your next strip, which is just a tad shorter. You're going to do the exact same thing. You're going to frill it. It's important that you don't make the cake too wet, especially if you're working on the moist cake. The dry cake, you can go a little bit wetter. And that you remember to not allow your fondant frills to lay on one another, or they'll start slipping down and all your work will be for naught. Okay, I am deliberately doing that, so it makes it easier for me to tuck it. I'm not fighting with it like I was on the other one. And then you're just going to tuck it in. If it's a little bit too long and you already have it on, just grab a pair of scissors. And I like these Tweezerman scissors that we carry. They have a lifetime guarantee and they're easy to work with and they're pretty sharp. and just tuck it in. And you might need to play with it just a little bit to get it exactly where you want. And I'm trying to do this without turning my cake so that I'm at a better angle so you can see what I'm doing. So I am fighting with it just a little bit because I'm at a bad angle here. But if you were doing it, you would turn it like so and tuck it in. And I'm just going to put a tad more water there just to make sure that I've got that piece in. Alright, so now we're going to go with our third piece. And you can work the dress, the entire dress, all the way up. You don't have to stop and let it dry. In fact, it is better to start and be from the beginning to end and not stop. Because by the time you get to the top, the bottom will be perfect enough for you to open up your frills. And I do like to check that there isn't any white showing. That I didn't go up too high, and I didn't, so we're good. And I'll go through here a couple of times and just add in a little bit more movement. And like I said, it's going to depend on the fondant that you're working with. I wouldn't mix it with a 50-50 gum paste if you don't have to. So that you don't endanger yourself with cracking. And also it's easier to eat a full fondant piece than it is a piece that is 50-50 and a little bit harder on the mouth. So I'm just tucking it in. Alright, I'm going to keep working up the dress, and as we get closer to the top, I'll come back and show you the rest. Alright, so I have right now 5 frills going across this dress. Now, if you chose to make your little frills to be thinner pieces, then of course you would have more. So I'm going to add one more, and then I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do the top. So this will be the last frill before we do the top. And you do it exactly the same. Now remember, just like in anything else, when you wear or buy a dress, it's not every piece of fabric or frill or part of the dress is exactly the same. So if all your frills don't look exactly the same, that's okay, because it wouldn't look natural if you tried to make them all the same frilling in the same place. Now I know that right about here is where my dress is, and I wanted to leave some extra. So I'm just going to take that off. Try not to use any cornstarch because the white of the cornstarch is so hard to wipe off. And as long as you're careful and you don't knock your frills with your hand, you shouldn't have any difficulty whatsoever. Now, I might have cut him too short. Oh no, we're going to be good. Alright. So we're going to put him in. And again, I'm not going to put the sides in. I'm going to leave that open so I can tuck. It just looks more finished when you tuck in those seams than if you just let it flat on the dress. So, I'm sorry, I moved the turntable. Didn't mean to do that. And then you're going to do your top. Now your top is going to be frilled as well, but here you do have to watch that point. So you're going to want to be a little bit more gingerly when you do your frill. And you're also going to come out much further than you need to. As you're frilling, you're also stretching that fondant. And while you're frilling, I want you to go up at an angle instead of going straight across, because a waist of a dress doesn't come straight across the bodice. It would cut somebody off and they would just look funny. So try and keep that in mind, that you want to come a little bit more curved. And then you're just going to wet right in here. Pick up your dress, place it on, try not to stretch out the bodice while you're doing that. And I can see that, I have enough to tuck in. I've got a little bit of a wing here, so I'm just going to gently snip that off. And just like I've done before, I'm going to tuck this around. And you might have to play with it just a little bit. If you decided that you don't have the time to wait about 4 hours for that fondant to set, and you wanted to work on a wet cake, or one that was still able to dent in, make sure the brush that you're working with is quite soft, or you're going to find a bunch of brush marks everywhere. If you have the time to wait, that's always better. I'm going to tuck that nicely in. Once I know that's secure, you're going to start at the bottom and open up your frills a little bit. Like right here, this one kind of drooped down. And again, depending on the type of fondant that you're working with, you might go back when you do this dress and have to open it up again. Or if you're working with a fondant that dries faster, you're just going to want to open it up and leave it. Once you get to this stage and you have it looking just the way that you want, then you can decide what you want to put in for your waist. I decided to use a 2.5 PME nozzle, and I just did a snail's trail across the dress. But you could do beadwork, you could use fondant and make a little belt. The ideas of what you can do is limited, or limitless. So, make it your dress, decide what you want to do. You might just want to leave it plain or take a little bitty stars. Whatever you want to do, it'll be gorgeous. So that's how you frill the dress for the side. Alright, so you're going to need a square cutter of whatever size you want your drape corners to be, and your pinwheel. And you want to use the non-scalloped edge. I've already pre-cut my pieces out, and blue is going to be my base, so there's my blue, just to show it to you. And the red and the white are going to be where my lines go. So what I'm going to do, you're going to need a ruler for this, just so you can have some straight lines. Is you're going to cut strips, and generally it will take half of one square of each color to do one pinwheel. Or 4 drapes on the corners. So in order to do the drapes, you have to first, cut a pinwheel out. So we're about half right there, I guess. With one more piece. And then I'll put this back underneath my Stay Fresh mat. You will want some sort of Stay Fresh mat to keep everything moist. Now I colored my fondant myself, but you can buy pre-colored fondant. I did find that I was not able to get that Royal Navy type blue that the American flag has. And of course you don't want to add too much color to your... Actually, this is gum paste, not fondant, excuse me. To your gum paste, or it'll just become a goopy mess. And we do sell colored gum paste. I just chose to color it myself. I don't even have a reason. Alright, so after you get your strips cut, you'll probably need maybe one more. You're going to want to work fast from this point on, so that you don't get dried out and look like elephant skin. Now you're going to take your base, and this is blue for me. Make sure it's nice, and if you didn't get the edge real clean with your cutter. Lay it flat, and you can either use egg whitewash, water, or edible glue. I'm just going to use water because it's right here. And you're going to wet your piece, not too much. And you're going to begin layering your stripes. Now you could do polka dots if you wanted to. Or you could do little stars if you wanted to. Make sure to alternate back and forth. The other thing I like about working with water is you see I can lift it up a little easier than I could if it was, especially egg whitewash, because it just adheres so well. You're just going to keep layering back and forth. I might not have enough strips, so I might have to cut a few more real quick. Oh, look at that. I'm not alternating. I got busy talking and wasn't paying attention. But it was an easy fix. And it looks like I misspoke. It did take a half for the other ones. I don't know why this one is taking more, but that's alright. It's really easy to fix. I'll just grab some more color. I think maybe one of each will do it. And for the sake of time, I'm going to make the next one a big piece of white. Which actually might not even matter. You'll see why in a minute. Now, if you've ever colored or layered your fondant, you know exactly what I'm going to do next. If not, I'm going to show you. Alright, so you're going to take a rolling pin and gently roll. Not too much, just a little bit. And then I'm going to put it through my pasta machine on a setting of 1, so that you get it all looking like it's one piece. And then you're going to come in, because I have grown my square out and made it larger when I rolled it and put it through the pasta machine. The reason you want to lightly roll it first is you don't want to squish your colors and end up marbling. You want to keep them separate. And I find this works really well. Now for the drapes, you're going to come in and you're going to find your center. And again, I'm working in centimeters. Sorry for my arm. I forgot to grab a toothpick. It's easier for me to work in centimeters than it is in inches. So this is about 8.5 from corner to corner. So I'm going to be 3 1/4 will probably be the center. Once you get that, to make your drapes, you're going to cut, and the only reason I'm making that mark is so that I know to go straight across. And then you're going to turn up one corner, like so. Make sure that you only push in the corner and keep it in its formation so that each one is the same when you come and put it on your cake. Now, I made the squares. Each of my squares were on a pasta machine setting of a number 3. I wouldn't go much thicker than that. You'll end up so thick with your pinwheels that it'll be too heavy. And then you just bring them up like so. And that one's coming open. And I can bring him out now, because we know that all of them are the same. And then to put them on the cake, you literally just want to go in, put it down, gently bend it around your corner, like so. And it looks like the flag is almost draping over your cake. And that's how you do that piece.